To say that this video from a couple of days ago didn't age well is an understatement. I owe an apology to Yannick Sinner because in that video that I'm referring to, I said that Yannick Sinner is human. This was after he had beaten Shapovalov and struggled in the first set and also in the third set. And this could have easily turned into a 5-set battle. But I'm going to retract that statement. And I'm going to say that Yannick Sinner indeed is not human because the way he played yesterday, listen, I don't care who's on the other side of the net. Even Djokovic or Carlos Alcaraz, what can the opponent do? When Yannick Sinner serves like this, returns like this, and plays from the baseline like this, well, there's not much that opponents can do. And I think approximately 5 times per year, we're going to get this version of Sinner. One that is playing at the top of his level. Because if you judge Yannick Sinner based on this performance, and another one that I'm going to point out, this is not how he always plays. Because even in the most important matches, Grand Slam finals, Yannick Sinner is not necessarily playing at the absolute top of his level. There are still some dips where he will make a few mistakes here and there. He will go through some mini slumps on the return where he's not making that many returns and the first serve percentage will drop. You can make arguments for this to be true even in the Wimbledon final, in some portions of the match, of course, in the Roland Garros final. But even in the Grand Slam finals where he won in straight sets, for example, against Zverev in this year's Australian Open or last year against Fritz, those matches were very good from Sinner, but they weren't perfect by any means. There were still some dips here and there. So again, approximately 5 times per year, Sinner is going to step on a court and everything's going to work. I'm going to predict that eventually somebody is going to get beaten 6-0, 6-0, 6-0 at the Grand Slam level by Yannick Sinner. I've talked in many videos in the past that Yannick Sinner has the best return in the world. Yannick Sinner also has the best hold game on the ATP Tour. And from the baseline, based on shot quality, Yannick Sinner has the best forehand and the best backhand on the ATP Tour. And again, when he wakes up and all these shots are working, he's feeling them, he's not missing close to any of them, there's not much that anybody can do. Even someone like Bublik, who possesses the repertoire to disrupt Yannick Sinner's rhythm. It's very difficult to disrupt, and I'm going to get into that in a second. But let's start now with the very first game of this match. And I found it fascinating that Bublik held 56 service games in a row at the highest possible level. He steps on the court with Yannick Sinner and loses his service game in the very first game. And you would think that maybe he played a poor service game. He absolutely didn't. He only missed one first serve in that first game. And Bublik's serve on average somewhere between 120 and 130. Depends whether he's slicing it or flattening it out a little bit more. But generally, it's somewhere in the 120s. And Bublik is serving hard into the corners. But Yannick Sinner, in that first return game, did not miss a single return. And that's something that's very difficult for a server to deal with from a mental standpoint, and especially when it happens in the very first game. And it's not like Sinner is chipping these returns back. He's taking cuts at these returns, and he's putting Bublik in trouble immediately. So he gets broken in that game, and right away, the confidence takes a hit. Now, it's very early in the match, and a lot of things can happen. Bublik can play himself into the match for sure right here, but it's very difficult when Yannick Sinner is also serving unbelievably well. And I'm sure Bublik was waiting for a dip in Yannick Sinner's level, but it simply wasn't there. Through the entirety of this match, Yannick Sinner played flawless tennis, and there was not much Bublik could do. Now, in the post-match press conference, Yannick Sinner was asked a question where it was insinuated that Bublik showed a lack of interest in this match. And I watched a lot of Bublik, and I disagree 100%. In fact, I think Bublik showed how you behave when you are getting beaten 6-1, 6-1, 6-1. He has a lot of charisma, and I do think that he tried very hard in this match, but there was simply nothing that he could do. There was no lack of interest or tanking, if you will. Bublik always plays like this. You watch his recent match against Paul. He plays very fast in between points. And yes, he did do an underhand serve on a couple of occasions, but that's just Bublik. And as I've been saying all along, he only does those underhand serves when it doesn't matter. In other words, at unimportant moments of the match where he's already down. Now, Bublik did have a lot of double faults. I think he hit 12 of them, if I remember correctly. And the thing about Bublik's second serve is that he doesn't have a second serve. He hits a version of his first serve. And the problem for Bublik in this match was, like I already said, Sinner has an unbelievable return, and he can return his first serve very aggressively. And what do you think is going to happen? To a second serve that's a tad slower potentially, it's going to be even worse. So Bublik had to be very aggressive on his second serve, possibly more aggressive than he usually is, because even though he has two first serves, let's say, he does put a little bit more control on his second serve. He does double fault quite a bit, but not as much as he did in this match against Sinner. So Bublik was forced to hit that second serve harder, and it's for that reason that he hit this many double faults. Now, why didn't Bublik kick his serve? Well, it's certainly something that he could have tried. Bublik does know how to hit a kick serve. I've seen him do it, but he doesn't do it very often. Nearly all of his second serves are usually slice serves. Why didn't Bublik do more drop shots? The thing about the drop shot is that you do need a little bit of time to hit a drop shot. So in other words, if you are deflecting the ball back and playing defense, drop shots are very difficult. And most importantly, drop shots are offensive shots. So if you are playing defense and the other guy is pounding the ball and you're behind the baseline, you're not going to win a lot of points when you attempt drop shots from disadvantageous positions in the court. And there simply weren't enough opportunities for Bublik to be in favorable positions in the court to execute drop shots. Now, there were a few opportunities for Bublik, and he did do a few drop shots. But one thing that I don't discuss often enough is Sinner's incredible athleticism and the way he runs on drop shots, for example. Sinner is extremely quick and he's an incredible mover. So there was simply nothing that Bublik could have done in this match to make it tighter. Sinner was simply too good. Now back to Sinner playing like this approximately 5 times per year. Another match that's very similar to this one was the Ruud match in Rome. And Casper Ruud had just come from winning the Masters 1000 title on clay in Madrid, and he almost lost 6-0, 6-0 to Jannik Sinner. He did win a game, so it was 6-0, 6-1. And I'm sure there were a couple of other matches like this where Sinner maybe played a lower ranked opponent. But again, there are going to be certain days throughout the year where Sinner is going to feel perfect. He's going to feel the ball perfectly, and there's simply nothing that any opponent can do. Now, this doesn't mean that Sinner is going to play like this in his quarterfinal match against Musetti, because I remember in Rome, after Sinner had beaten Ruud 0-1 in his next match, semifinals against Tommy Paul, he was down 0-5 in the first set. So tennis is a crazy game like that. You never know. But I do expect that Sinner is going to have straight set victories all the way to the final. A day earlier, we had super entertaining matches, possibly one of the most entertaining tie-breaks ever, the one between Townsend and Krejcikova. And the next day, we have absolute blowouts. So Jannik Sinner destroys Bublik, and then Anisimova comes out against Maia and wins the first set 6-0 and is on absolute fire. She then proceeds to win the second set 6-3. I think this is a great opportunity for Amanda to redeem herself because she plays Iga Swiatek next. If you don't remember, she lost to Iga 6-0, 6-0 in the Wimbledon final. Anisimova is looking strong in this tournament, and tennis is a crazy game. It doesn't mean that Swiatek is going to beat her again 6-0, 6-0. I do think that Amanda possesses the game that can trouble Iga. So that match is going to be one of the more interesting quarterfinals that I'm going to be tuned in for sure. But back to the blowouts yesterday. Other than the Kostyuk Muchova match that went 3 sets, Muchova won 6-3 in the third, every other match yesterday was a blowout. So Swiatek destroyed Alexandrova, which was a surprise to me because Alexandrova, one of the best servers on tour, someone that's given Iga a lot of trouble, especially when she beat her at the tournament in Miami. Iga destroys her 3-1. Osaka destroys Gauff 3-2. Coco did not play a good match. I have absolutely no idea what happened to Coco after winning Roland Garros, but therein lies the secret for Coco to figure out what happened after Roland Garros, and she needs to find answers for her slump to be able to get out of this slump. It's not all about her technique. There's something going on mentally with her game that needs to be solved. On the men's side, we had Musetti taking out Munar 6-3, 6-0, 6-1. I had picked Lorenzo to lose in the first round to Pericard. And why did I pick that? Well, Lorenzo only won one match after his phenomenal clay court season and making the semifinals at Roland Garros. He beat Duckworth, and that's it. And it wasn't for a lack of matches because Musetti played every single tournament. He played Washington, Toronto, and Cincinnati, and he couldn't put together a lot of wins. So on the other hand, Pericard was playing well in Winston-Salem, so I thought that Pericard could score the upset. He didn't. Musetti gained some confidence from that match, and now he's playing as well as he was playing throughout the clay court season. Musetti is back for sure. Alex de Minaur takes out Leandro Riedi 6-3, 6-2, 6-1. I watched Leandro play. I'm very impressed with his level. When you face someone as experienced as de Minaur in the fourth round of a Grand Slam, you're going to be at a big disadvantage when you haven't been exposed to these situations before. So absolutely no chance for Leandro in this one. And last but not least, Auger Aliassime takes out Rublev in straight sets. And I wouldn't say that this was a blowout. Rublev certainly had chances in that first set. And I'd picked Rublev to go into the semifinals. And I did not predict that Auger Aliassime was going to take out Zverev. And honestly, despite his great level against Zverev, I did not think that Auger Aliassime was going to beat Rublev because he was 1-7 in the head-to-head against him. But Aliassime is on absolute fire right now. He's playing well. He's going to give himself a good chance to beat de Minaur and make the semifinals of the US Open. But a golden opportunity for both guys, de Minaur and Aliassime. So that's going to be an interesting match to watch. But back to Rublev. This is a tough loss because he had a golden opportunity to make the semifinals at the Grand Slam level for the first time in his career. But I still think that Rublev is on the right road. He's fighting hard to maximize his potential. If his career stopped tomorrow, he's accomplished a lot. He has 17 titles, including 2 Masters 1000 titles. This is a big-time player that's fighting really hard to improve his mental game, and I surely hope that he can do that